The reason why I was just explaining something a little earlier, we don't normally do public announcements about our operational stuff. This is a public announcement. The reason we want to make it public is because we want to get the message out to the other SMEs inside the industry to have the confidence to chase down their own objectives, because their objectives appear to me, to us, to be signally more honest and of integrity than what we're seeing in the RPO market at this particular time. And there is a split between the SME market and what we call the majors. And when we first started, the split was quite clear. We were quite happy about it. The split looked something like this. The majors were effectively volume recruiters, and the SMEs were smaller operators, they were more personal, and by being more personal, they claimed that they took more care of the individuals who came through their organisations. But their delivery was inconsistent, because they did care so much about getting things right that they didn't always turn up with people when clients had vacancies, and obviously that made the whole relationship a little bit more complex. So on one hand you had volume and bodies, on the other hand you had specific responses on a more individualised basis. So there was a challenge obviously for the SMEs. There was also a split in motivation, and I'm not sure that this is, I can tell you this is characterised across the entire industry, but certainly when I try to explain the difference between Angela Mortimer and the industry, the people in the industry, this is one of the ones I use. But if you look at it, the clients and the candidates are looking for a quality response, a quality outcome to what they're looking for. Nobody's going to look for a duff job, a duff career, or a duff future. The clients are looking for the same thing. They're looking for added value. They may not say it, but that's exactly what they're looking for, because in the end they've got to have it, because there is a competitive world out there, and that added value is what converts into a competitive edge. What we actually see though, however, is that the agency world is considered to be motivated by the transactional process, i.e. the invoice. What we always say to differentiate us between the others is that if you take the other agencies, the invoice is the event. If you take us and our people, it is the new career, the new opportunity, which is the event. The invoice is the byproduct, and quite frankly, getting the money is not a problem. Money is never, it's really important money doesn't go up the agenda, and in a sense that's something that happens, which changes the process. So profit, as soon as people start making profit forecasts, the pressure is on to actually hit those profit forecasts. As a result of that, there is inevitably some concern by everybody in where the relationship is and how it happens. And to be quite frank, and apologies if anybody finds this bit offensive, but quite frankly, we are clear that if we had to characterise clients of agencies, we would say to you that they would talk quality, but quite happily buy the cheaper transactional pricing. And that's particularly what we see in the major end of the whole recruitment processes. So this split exists. And existed right from the day we started years ago. So in our first 15 years, we were quite happy about the split, because this allowed us to differentiate ourselves from the majors. So there was quite a clear choice: major volume, but not that much interest. Minors, SMEs, SMEs, and there was that much more personal. So we had to differentiate ourselves against the other SMEs. And the way we eventually decided to do it was to actually grow. So effectively, we decided to grow in order to, if you like, outcompete the other SMEs. But when we grew, we were not prepared to sacrifice our initial quality principle. So therefore, the trick for us was that we had to grow, and we had to maintain that quality reputation that we had created in the first 7 years of our existence. I'll leave it to you and the secretaries, your candidates you meet from us to decide whether or not we actually did that. By reputation, though, as Chris said, we're pretty much up there. Then what happened was, in the late 80s and early 90s, the majors began to invade our territory. At first, they did so with contracts, so basically they would go to clients and try to get clients to shut out any competition. by doing a total contract. So Manpower was one of the biggest players in that business. But very quickly the clients realised, and also the contractors realised, that it was impossible for Manpower to do the total supply. So eventually they started to move into partial supply, and so that whole concept began to be fragmented. And the next move really was that the RPO, the majors moved into another zone, which is effectively the RPO, and I use that as a generic term. There are all kinds of discussions about the definition of the RPO, vendor manager, and so on and so forth within the industry. But I use it as a generic term because, quite frankly, I'm not going to use that term in my marketing when we come on to the marketing of our new product. So what the RPOs did is that they sold, and actually this is saleable, by the way, this is quite understandable. They sold organisational convenience. The problems for the SMEs were that they were inaccessible because there were too many of them, they didn't really work together, and therefore there was a very fragmented marketplace, which made it difficult for the HR department in any large organisation to get any kind of organisational clarity in how the thing was moving forward. So they sold organisational convenience, which is quite understandable. They sold abdication of responsibility, or if you like, dumping liability. And so since the 90s, obviously employment law has become more and more onerous. Not so much the law part of it actually, because we've now turned that into a tick box zone, but particularly the unknown damages of sort of, of what employers would call the extreme dilatoriness of the judges who offer things like hurt feelings stuff and all that sort of stuff. And I'm not going to have that discussion with you now. It's out there, we all know it, and that's it. The thing that they actually sold, the thing that actually made the difference, and I know because at one point we used to own, or we had shares in a so-called independent vendor manager, the thing that actually clinched the deals so far as all of these were concerned was completely the wrong thing so far as the people end of it was concerned, and that was the price. So what they would do is walk in and say, if we manage your recruitment, we can go out and we can get a better price for you and therefore lower your costs. And that, frankly, was the clinching thing on the whole process. In order to make this work, the RPOs initially realised they weren't going to be able to supply with their own operations, and therefore they would have to offer the hand of friendship to the SMEs out there. But quite frankly, and they started doing that in the late 90s, I think you will find very few people amongst the SMEs who will, well, we'll talk about that in just a second, but I don't think you find anybody who finds that relationship satisfactory in the least. And I would have to say that since this whole takeover, if you like, of this RPO market, there's been complete confusion in the ranks of the SMEs. So here we are. By the way, this is not my generation, but the guys here tell me this guy's a bully, and I think that's what most people feel. Most of the SMEs feel about the RPOs, who essentially are the people who run are run by the majors. There is interdependence, but everybody's uncomfortable. Rather, the SMEs are very uncomfortable with the situation they have with the RPOs. There's the whole thing about the RPOs selling quality on the basis of their reliance or their acceptance of the SME part of the whole process, but frankly the SMEs have a different thought about the whole thing. And although this whole process has been put together by SMEs, and there might be one person in the room who's going to find the next thing I'm going to say slightly offish. What we find is that there is the people who are actually running RPO tend to be ex-recruiters at quite low salaries. So you're not exactly going to get the best people in recruitment into those particular positions. Now I can say this with great confidence because several of the guys who used to work here have gone into the RPO, the on-site roles, in-house recruitment roles, and to be quite fair, they'll be very, very honest about what they have experienced inside those processes. So we have some insight as to what's happened inside. We would say that the relationship is untrustworthy. We say it's political. I'm quite frankly very, very happy with that statement. When a particular company years ago, a particular company who started, who was very big in the RPO business at that particular point, were owned by a United States company, which then sold them back into the London Stock Exchange. And we had business through that operation. Our business went over a cliff 2 months before the forecast, the first forecast was due. And it took me about a year to figure it out, but obviously the coincidence of the forecast and our business going over the cliff and being replaced by their own internal candidates was a clear indicator of something which gave me question on the trust of the relationship we had with those. And there are plenty of other instances about those sorts of things. Now, I've had conversations with the RPOs, and what they're saying to me is that actually things are going well, and that their KPIs, they're fulfilling their KPIs. But if you look closely at the KPIs are selected for reasons. And one of the reasons why the KPIs are looking good is because they are simply about bodies being delivered. There's a whole sort of a line of questioning inside that process. Isn't it true that as soon as KPIs were introduced to the NHI, we found everything on the KPIs got better, but other things things that weren't on the KPIs started to disappear off the screen. So we understand how KPIs work and how they affect the behaviours. And in the end, we were signing contracts. There are contracts out there which are completely unworkable. They haven't been tested on in law, but it is complete nonsense to come to me and say, I will get paid when they feel like paying, by the way, I can't chase the payments. That's absolute rubbish. And that kind of thing is being put in these contracts. And it simply can't survive. That is completely unsustainable. It will not survive. It will not survive whether I'm here or not. All I'm doing is calling it. It's just completely unworkable. And the final thing is that inside that, of course, the hidden thing about that is that we as agencies end up funding the payrolls of the clients who are not paying us very much to do that. We decided, we've been looking at this for a long time, and so as I got a little bit stronger and stronger, by the way, this whole movement from my company is not being pushed by me. This whole movement is being pushed by the guys who are doing the work for the RPOs. And about a year ago, they came to me and said, this is nonsense. We're just wasting our time with these people. And then a little bit after that, a client called us in and said, what on earth's going on here? And we said, well, you've got an RPO there, basically, and that's what's going on. So really, and then at that point, the client said, well, can we then stay in touch? And that changed that particular contract slightly, but of course there are all kinds of contractual issues about that, which frankly I've ignored, but they are there to be considered. So when we look, and here we've got some stats up, can you read these stats by the way? We've got some stats up on here, and I can tell you that we analysed the teams who were working for the RPOs, and their average placement success ratio, their assignment success ratio, was 1 in 1.8. And that was just a broad average. We didn't look down to the jobs or anything else like that. We just took the broad average. It was one assignment fulfilled in every 1.8 orders that they took. The rate of fulfillment with the RPOs was 5.6, 3 times worse than our normal quality rate. And it is a quality rate, frankly. And we'll see that again a little later. That is absurd. And it's an absolute evidence, damning evidence, that the RPOs are not helping the clients in the way that they handle their particular business. Certainly not on the quality issue in the first place. And I remind you again, quality is cheaper than cheapest. We present 17 CVs in order to get one placing. We normally present somewhere in the region of 6 or 7. Or rather, these teams normally produce in the region of 6 or 7. That 6 or 7 is a very interesting figure because what it actually means is that the numbers of people they present are probably the numbers of people who are seen for interview, which is pretty good in terms of the accuracy that these guys are sending, because we will normally send at least 3 people for each assignment that we take on. So we would expect, on a 1 in 2 ratio, we would expect to send 6 people along, provided if we got 3 people into every shortlist that we saw. And I'll talk a little bit about the accuracy again. If you look at the offers down here, we took 100 over a period we tested, and I can't remember exactly how long it was. We took 146 jobs from RPOs. We got 29 offers, out of the 146 jobs, which gives you some idea of the waste of time we were doing with these guys. And we got 26 of those offers were accepted immediately. Now that, there is always a question of over-preparing people when you send them through for interview. We don't over-prepare people because it's really important that it's them that comes through in the interview, and if they're over-prepared, then you're not actually, the client is not seeing the person. So you never over-prepare somebody, but what you do is you ask them, if you try to get them to position, for the client's sake, for the convenience of the whole process, that if they get an offer, what are they going to, what's their attitude going to be if they get an offer. So what we don't want, one of the most irritating things, is if you take a candidate through 2, 3, 4, 5 interviews, you get to the end, you say, okay, here's your offer, and they say, I'll have to think about it. Well, no, you've had 4 or 5 interviews, we put the whole process taken a week to do, so you've had the time to think, do you want this job or not, yes or no? And frankly, that's a perfectly fair question at that particular time. So we're quite happy with that question, and we're quite happy that that particular stat says that the people we put forward are properly, professionally prepared, not to bend the interview, not to distract from who and what they are, but to be ready to think, to have thought about the thing through before the thing actually comes through. So there are 2 things I need to do today, and the first thing is to try to give you that background and to try to use you, and excuse me for doing this, but hey, enjoy your sandwich and then I get my pay back. Please get it out there that the SMEs, they need to do work. They're not in the clear on this one. Fragmented industry is all very well, but if it's not accessible, then they're not in the play. So things have to actually happen in order to move forward. But they're in the driving seat so far as this is concerned for very simple reasons. Our future policy is what our past policy was, and that is to work with clients through RPOs, whatever else happens, to work with clients, only to work with people who care about the quality of people that the clients. So we will work with clients and find them quality and appropriate people, either in small numbers or in volumes, and we'll talk about the volumes in just a second. So today we're quite happy to confirm that we are very, very happy to work with intelligent RPOs. There is one major condition on that, I'm going to come on to that in a minute. With today, however, we can also announce that we have resigned one prominent RPO. On Friday, I had a meeting with an RPO and said, I'm afraid I'm sacking you, and we had all kinds of conversations, which actually just reinforced exactly what I've been saying to you. The RPOs are reliant on the stats. The stats say that RPO is growing. They are very happy on the basis that the RPO is growing. They are not happy to drill down any further. I just said one thing to her, which I think is significant. I asked her who handled the complaints in her organisation, and she said they had a complaint. They had a team who handled complaints. Okay, and then I asked her, does she know who handled our complaints? And the answer is the group CEO handles our complaints. They come onto my desk. I see every single complaint that comes onto my desk. Every now and again, people try to sort of soften them up and hide them, but we get down to it, and we look at every single complaint that comes through, and I can tell you that you just about need maybe one more finger than one hand for the number of complaints I have to deal with in a year, and if it was more, I would still deal with them, because I think it's really important that clash end of things, that gets right to the top inside the organisation. So that's just a little bit of colour there. And as well as, and this is really important, we're walking away from some RPOs. We are not going to walk away from clients. We have never walked away from clients, however badly they treated us, or however badly we felt about the treatment we were getting from clients. We have never, ever walked away from a client. We're always there to propose solutions, and even if they sack us, we're still there after they've sacked us to say, if you change your minds, we're still here. We will still be absolutely insistent on the quality of what we put forward to you, and if you don't want to pay for it, fine, but it's there, so you can use it as a benchmark, even when you're not using it as a benchmark. Just a quick little story about how we put the whole thing together. The first thing was we designed the product, so in your pack you'll see a red brochure. Red, it's chosen to be red because it is supposed to be obnoxious, it's supposed to be irritating, it's supposed to get up your nose, it's supposed to irritate you. So red is the aggressive colour apparently, and that is why we chose red. And of course on the top we have a very provocative statement. We don't do contract hire, brackets, the way other people do the contract hire. Now, the major thing inside this, which I'll perhaps talk to you about a little later, but just to cover the product list on here, we're just going to go through the RPO product list, and I think I told you a little earlier, I'm not going to use the phrase RPO because I think it is in disrepute. But basically, we found ourselves gradually, we realised we were doing all the things that RPO. So we were doing vetting for a television company where we were vetting 650 of their freelance staff and doing their payroll. We obviously do full service recruiting. We obviously are capable of doing full reporting. We have full reports on stats and so on and so forth inside our operations. A very simple thing to move that out to our clients' operations. We're quite happy to, and we have created a new company where we will engage in-house recruiters. We are quite happy to work alongside in-house recruiters. We are quite happy to have an open market set up, and what we're going to do is we're going to offer the direct recruiters our training. I'll tell you, our training is significantly better than anything I've seen out there in the marketplace. But not just our training, we're also going to help them in our to join in to the whole motivational practice. And anybody who works in a large organisation knows what it's like to be the people nobody really knows, nobody understands, who apparently doesn't also understand their business. A banking friend of mine had a name for HR. Does anybody know what banks used to be calling HR in the mid-90s? It was a long time ago.
Human remains.
Human remains, absolutely, yeah. Human remains, because that was how sad that whole sort of setup was. And that's saying the CIPD took a long time to work up to. They're trying to face it now, but it's a long time. It took a long time to research that. Professional on-site presence, strategic recruitment, consultancy advice, legal advice, and access, yes, to HR advice too, as part of that whole package. So the important thing about this is that we have not walked away from this marketplace because we had no alternative. We now have an alternative option for our clients, and so we are now in a position where we can make demands on those people we are prepared to work with, because if they don't want to do it, then we can offer the client our own version of the whole process. And if you like, it's just picking out the bits of that which matter. Can we actually do that? Yes, we can. We already are an RPO for a section of a large global American hedge fund, both in New York, here in London, and they're opening up in various places in Europe, so we're very, very well placed to work with them. We were, as I said, working with a global TV business, vetting their part-timers, because there's a serious issue on whether they're contractors, they're freelancers, because there is now a serious issue on whether the freelancers are actually freelance or not full supervised. So that has to be dealt with. We have been dealing with international banking. We have a particular international bank where we do a full recruitment service, but we also look after people that they bring in on a contract or temporary basis, and we do the vetting and the payroll for those people. We run a sort of benchmarking, slightly informal this one, but we work for a particular property company in about 5 towns, and we just simply offer them a benchmarking service. Benchmarking service, by the way, is simply this. Every time you brief your RPO, brief us at the same time, we will put forward a shortlist for you. If you prefer their shortlist, good luck to you. But we have at least we have a benchmark, so at least you know what the gap is between the quality of your candidates that you're going to take on and the ones that we are providing. So we're happy to do that for free. A lot of what we do is speculative. That's just one more thing which we will do speculatively and freely. Do you know we don't get taken up for that? That's really interesting to me. It's kind of like, well, why wouldn't you take up a very simple offer like that? Well, obviously, because it's a bit like, don't take the coat because you might like it. They stay away from that. We deal with a famous luxury good company. I'm not allowed to tell it. We never tell names, okay? But if you happen to read the right papers, you'll see that they've just reported a very successful year. Street-level funders, so we go low into the marketplace. When we go low, we don't go dumb. When we go low, we are still, and this is the whole thing about matching dynamics. When we go low, we are getting people who are intelligent, who can use the opportunity for street fundraising, as part of their, if you like, part of their foundation for work. Okay? And I think, to be frank, those guys on the street deserve a lot of credit for being out there in the first place. And of course, for those who think we can't deliver volumes because we're an SME, the SMEs, if they work together, and that's what we have inside the organisation, if they can work with, we can produce volume. So I'll give you just one quick story. There was a certain channel train company, whose name I will not mention, who 3 or 4 years ago got into trouble because there was some unknown connection between snow, a lot of snow, and their trains not working. And so they decided they had a lot of communication to get to, and for some reason, well, anyway, we helped them with that, with populating that particular project. They needed 90 people within a week, 90 bilingual people within a week. We got them 90 bilingual people within a week. They did not, for the period of the project, they did not sack any of those people. All of those people were invited back to help through, and that's absolutely common with the kind of, even the temp work that we do, is that the people get in there and they do a good job. I'll give you another example, very, very quickly. There was a train company up in Birmingham. We had a small contract with these guys. We only had 4 people in there actually, but it was done on a sort of contractual basis because the HRD left their contracts. They then went and signed a national contract with a firm whose name I will not mention, who took 18 attempts to replace one of those little temps on their call center, on their call center, and there are various other people that we've worked with before. So what we realised is, if you packed all of those things together, it's called an RPO, and we therefore thought, well, hang on a minute, we're doing an RPO. Why are we succumbing to all this nonsense that's out in the marketplace? You might say, well, actually, RPO seems to be big business and all that, so we're an SME. But then looking at it and looking at the size of our business before, we already have a history of turning small-minded businesses into large business. And this is straight out of our corporate brochure, which was written about 15 years ago. We still stay true to the things that are in it then, as we have done with our principles. And what we decided to do was build the company on a concept of small is beautiful, not to walk away from that concept, because that kept people very, very connected with the cold face, with their clients, with their candidates, but to create a sort of an umbrella, but not an umbrella around them of sort of power, of control, more of an umbrella of facilitation. So if you look on this particular thing, I think we talked about our internal market. So one of the things we can do, what we have is we have an internal market which works, where candidates are put forward by one team to another team for their roles, the roles that they have. By doing that, we get very, very good shortlists in a very short amount of time. And therefore, the smaller SME element of it can work together in order to create a large-scale result. And pretty much all the volume results I've talked to you about, in fact, pretty much all of our business is done intra-team. We actually chase it, it's one of the things we measure, and overall, 80% of the placings we make are done with people from different teams. So the whole internal market thing is the thing that glues the teams together, and in our case, it works very, very successfully. So we know how to expand the operation without losing that touch, without losing the personal touch with our clients and our candidates. So here we are suddenly now, when I talked to the RPO on Friday and said we're actually walking away from this thing, she said that's very brave of you. And it's kind of like, that was a bit of a threat, it's kind of like thinking, oh, I'm not sure I wanted to be brave particularly. What do you mean by brave? We're saying, well, we're growing, and what she was kind of saying is we're going to take over the market. So if you walk away from us, you're going to be on your own. And that's a pretty tough message for a lot of SMEs. It's pretty nerve-wracking. You're stuck on your own, you've got 5 people around, they're always complaining about not paying them enough. Then you've got your clients on the other side saying, if you don't do what we want you to do, you will not be able to pay them enough, etc., etc. It's not an easy job running a small company. So doing something like this is something we find, it's something we thought about very, very hard before we did it. But having decided to do it, we've now actually walked away, sacked one of the RPOs that we have been dealing with. So we are going to stop working with RPOs unless they provide, they start to take care of their clients. So their consultants need to be as good as ours. We need to meet and understand the requirements of each hiring manager. We don't need to be blocked off from the end. That's ridiculous. So we're not going to accept that anymore. We need to continue our proven candidate attraction, candidate consultation practices. There's no point in using us if we don't. And by the way, we need to be paid in full in a timely fashion and properly. And we're going to have one very, very simple overriding agreement, and that is that they absolutely need to agree, without any qualification whatsoever, that the reason we are working with them, that the reason that they're prepared to work with us, is that completely unconditionally, it is the right person for the client, the right job for the candidate that will lead the agenda, not the price, not the speed, none of those things, but getting the right person in place. And we can make that work, we obviously can. Inside the brochure, written up, this brochure was written about 4 or 5 years ago, so it's our commitment. It's very easy for us to write a brochure like this. We are quite clear that people recruit people. We are quite clear that for all the technology around the actual quality of recruitment decisions we see in the marketplace is no better now than it was 40 years ago when we first started. We are quite clear that if you run the recruitment process properly, over time, you will get a better ROI and a cheaper process than you will if you run a transactionally based sort of setup. We are quite clear, and this is counterintuitive, that we will not write contracts. We are quite clear that we need agreements. We will not write legalistic contracts with our clients. We are quite clear that the client will use us because they agree, as the RPO, that they want the right people in place. Quite frankly, managing that process is easy. Getting the right people is the real skill, and that is what contract recruitment should be about, is getting the right people in there. We can do it. We can do it in volume. And how we do it, as David says, the next step is to create a bespoke solution for you, and then to work in partnership to continuously improve it. Guys, you get things wrong, it doesn't matter if we're working in partnership and if we're both concentrating on the solution part of the thing and not the who's made the mistake part of the thing, which is what those contracts are all about. So we're quite happy with that, and of course if people don't want to walk that way, then sadly we're going to walk away from that particular process. What we put up in front of you is not new. It's been going on, this whole thing's been going on now for somewhere in the region of 25 years. It's been all over the place. We are now producing clarity. We would like you, if you are able to do that, or if we can help with questions, we would like you to take the message out to the SMEs in particular and say, we think the world is clarifying. We think there has been an uncomfortable situation. We think that the current RPO model is fundamentally flawed. We think there's an alternative because we've now stuck one up on the wall. But we absolutely are clear that the SME, that the client themselves are unhappy with what they are getting at this particular moment. We are clear that they are moving closer and closer and closer to some sort of an idea of the quality of people they are taking on board. And by the way, if they don't, what do they think? The Chinese are stupid? The Chinese are not stupid. So the Chinese are going to sit back and be second best in the whole service sector if just because the UK think, or people in the UK think it's okay to hire people just to do a job inside their operations. Okay? So it's things that are going to move. We think things are going to move now. So please let the world know. We have made it public that we are not accepting the current market of RPO. Gone far too long. Thank you very much indeed for listening to me. We have as much time as you like. So if you need places, you start walking towards the door, go for it. If the last person's still here, we will still answer questions. So if anybody has anything they would like to ask, either me or members of the panel, we'd be delighted to help you.